Hello everybody, Brother Kenneth here yet again. Hey, this is the art of the Deels, and this is where we might extend or elaborate upon topics of the supernatural, spiritual, warfare, exorcisms, and so forth. In this case, we're going to continue on with something we were talking about on the live show, where we're talking about ordinary and extraordinary diabolical activity. And since I was quoting from the Jordan Amen book, so I can comment on it, Jordan Amen, the deceased writer, author, obviously an enthusiast, not just a priest, but he's passed away long since. And you can find the book, but it's very expensive, and it's called Spiritual Theology. And on page 298 it begins. So we're going to finish that, and it may take 10-20 minutes, I don't know, so bear with me on this, okay? Okay, we're going to start by by reason of some contradiction involved, or because they surpass the power of an angelic being, the devils cannot do the following. Okay, so number one, the demons cannot do the following. Devils produce any kind of truly supernatural phenomenon, because the supernatural by definition exceeds all natural created powers. Supernatural, there's just an argument about some of these things a little bit, like, oh, we call it preternatural in the line of work we do, that we're looking for the preternatural, not the supernatural, I suppose. But I don't know. People call demons, as we said, the offspring of the Nephilim. So, and no, we mean the fallen angels every time we say demons. So, sometimes the supernatural and the preternatural kind of gets lost in definition. So, I'm not concerned about this one. Okay, number two, create a substance, because creation requires an infinite power, and no creature of any kind can be used even as an instrument of creation. Well, oh my gosh, that can get kind of gross, if you know what I mean. But create a substance. It's been projected. It's been mixed. It's a substance they didn't create. We got to understand what the word create means too. Creation is something from scratch. It didn't get created because your dog took a dump in the yard or something like that. He didn't create the poop. So, the elements of all these things were made from a living being. Creating is if God created some sort of new element, or something like that. Only he could do. We never even thought about it. And it's not a combination of different elements. It's just a completely unique thing. And that's what we would expect. Creation. Man was created, and through man, more, offspring and so forth come from that. But they're not created by woman and man coming together. Again, it's the definition of creation. So it's the same thing as with preternatural and supernatural. And we're not here to philosophically debate the definitions of the words. Now, this one's a good one. Raised a dead person to life. Remember the zombie stuff. Raise a dead person to life, although they could produce the illusion of doing so. Well, when you puppet a rotting corpse, that's not bringing them to life. We're talking about a restoration of life. All they can do is just inhabit it and then puppet around like an old marionette artist who would do it behind the stage. And that's what it is. Behind the veil, the reality is there's a devil, a demonic spirit who's manipulating it. And the other part of this says the produce illusion of doing so. If you've seen Serpent and Rainbow and some of these others, that there is some potion, drug, or whatever you call it, and by whatever means, that actually slows the heart down so much that you don't get a pulse, and it puts them in a coma state. And so the people are all convinced that they're dead. And then the story goes as they bury him. The person wakes up out of their coma when that drug wears off, and then suddenly they find themselves in a coffin and they might suffocate if they don't get buried off in time. But some of those lores go that they would go out and they'd unbury them at that time, and for some reason they were never the same. Now, that could be possible. If you had some spell put on you and you come back to consciousness without an exorcism or something at all, you might have a demon on you who's totally inhabited you, and they might even be part of the ritual. So obviously you're going to act like a demon-possessed person, cannibal, eating bugs, you name it. Like these people who take flakka, they totally take their brain off mind, and then the devil rushes in. Everybody's not going to be vulnerable to drugs like flakka, but the fact is when you take it and you consume it, and that's assuming the drug itself isn't cursed or has some kind of spell on it, you got to keep all of these elements in mind, though. But I think that's an important one. When we talked about zombies once, I probably should say that for another video, but that's pretty much the reality of it. So I totally agree on there. Not like I'll disagree with anything that he says in here at all, because I think there is something about teleportation that they fail to recognize. But then again, they had some things wrong. Thomas Aquinas, as you recall, didn't believe the Immaculate Conception. The saints aren't perfect. They're going to write something once in a while. They correct themselves before their death, usually, on his things. But okay, instantaneously, that's number 4, instantaneously cure wounds, fractures, lesions, etc., because there is something only the Creator can do. Well, if somebody lost an arm, when Jesus healed the man's ear, it was reattached. Didn't have to put it on with stitches and wait for the body to grow and all that stuff. It was instant. He was amazed, too. He still, maybe the pain went away and everything. Felt a little warm numbness or something, and it's like, my ear's attached again. But that's only something, that's why Jesus did this. I think people kind of figured it out over time, that you were in a pagan village and you take your kid who lost his arm and they couldn't restore it. Most of the time, I don't know if this is in the list, but when things are cured, it's because the demon usually had placed it on them, a double ordered, whatever reason. And they were sick because of diabolical influence. And of course, if you go to a witch doctor or whatever the pagan faith would be, all they're doing is asking demons to remove what demons put there. Even pain can be caused by a demonic spirit when it's removed. I'm cured. My back is okay again. And they can do that just because they have this grand master plan of leading you astray. Maybe you're going to be a prolific leader who's going to start promoting this new cult because of this so-called holy man cured you through his magic powder. And anything that'll lead you off the cliff, don't be surprised at anything they might do it. Okay, the 5th one is make truly prophetic predictions. They cannot. Just all of these are the cannot list for somebody who didn't pay attention and watched in late. Hey, I just went foggy. How'd that happen? Oh. That's called autofocus. Okay, so nobody freak out. Good grief. Okay, so this is that they can predict things because they can see a pattern of things. They can see your health, and they can just basically turn it into something that seems prophetic by their careful wording and choice. And maybe you're going to have an event that comes upon it. Like, let's say you were going to die tonight. Well, they know that there's a gas leak at this house. You're going to go to a party, and some gypsy comes out of the blue and walks up to you, say, "You are in great danger. You will die tonight." Well, the demon can tell a gypsy, and if they don't go and they find out the house blows up, he's going to go back to gypsy and ask for more. So he's just being led off the cliff. Now, that might have saved his life, but if the ultimate goal was to get him to be a cult leader and to follow this gypsy's cult, and considering that she's, some sort of prophet, when the reality is all the demons had to tell us something they already knew because they saw a natural phenomenon going on that was going to lead to this in order. They've been around for a long time. They've seen nature do these things, like what happens before a volcanic eruption. Seismographs. We need electronics, and but this is in a way extraordinary in how they try to devise these schemes to trap you, even get you to meet the wrong woman or wrong man, whichever. Okay, so know the secrets of a person's mind and heart. We talked about demons can't read minds, so this is true. They don't know your intentions, but they can guess them because they see, well, say you have a porn problem or something like that, or you're an alcoholic. They're going to guess the idea that, yeah, they can't pass up a beautiful woman or someone, that they lust after. So mind and heart, demons cannot read minds unless you basically collaborate with them, and then you communicating with them, and then you kind of connect with them. It's a trick for them to do that, even if they put their thoughts in your mind. And that's what they do. A lot of times they put thoughts in your head, as we'll be talking about the mind reading thing. And you don't know the difference between your thoughts and the demons. Like when you're being tempted. Where did the idea come from sometime to do something? It came from a demon, and it comes in the form of your own thinking and thoughts. And that's how they tempt. I'm kind of surprised that, okay, creation, that something that's not in here is that devils cannot reproduce. They're pure spirit. They have no physical means. If they can't create, they just can't create a fleshy meat version of themselves. They can only possess a man who, by default, has the seed. And then he impregnates the woman, and then she might be possessed already anyway, as I had said before, that demons cannot reproduce when we were talking about the Nephilim once. Okay, so extraordinary phenomenon through human beings. So what you'll find out there is, I'm hoping this is what they means, is basically say, it doesn't elaborate on that. And what I want to mention about that is when people think they have this power, it's from a spirit. If it's a good person, it's from the Holy Spirit. It's suggestions from your guardian angel. If it's a Satanist or somebody, there's demons doing that. That's been long known, and and of course, since history, that all the powers, you're basically telling demons to do stuff. You might start with wand, words, and then eventually move to thought, like your carry or something. But the reality is that they can direct your thoughts because they're reading your mind. You can direct thoughts to demons, and then they read your mind. But you're communicating with kind of telepathic communication, like when you hear it in your head, all this stuff. But this is the reality of it. And these witches and so forth, they think that it's their power or it's Mother Nature's. Well, still, Mother Nature. Who is Mother Nature? Is it an entity? Okay, that's what I mean. This is a short list. I probably should expand on it and then put it in my next book. But they're still trying to figure things out. We're still learning new stuff today. The exorcists are. Things that it will strengthen the battle. It's good, too, because the battle's thickening. It's getting tougher, and the world's getting more evil, and more people are being, we'll say, more extremely influenced, affected, oppressed, possessed, killed by, diabolical infestations, oppressions, and all that. And directly or indirectly, it could be through a person who's possessed, and then they kill somebody. But that person becomes a victim of the demonic, even if indirectly. Okay, with God's permission, the devil can do any of the following. I think we covered most of these, so I'll just go over those. That'll be on the first video. I'm not going to keep going over it again and again. Cause sensible consolations and tenderness. Oh, yeah, see, in other words, they emulate all of these things that are positive to smokescreen their dark reality. How did women get married to abusive husbands, and then, like they didn't know that their whole life? Were they always prone to be with an abusive person and put up with it? No, there was a bait and switch. The guy was probably very good looking, narcissistic personality, which is totally charismatic and a total manipulation. It's like catching a bipolar person when they're on their bipolar high. What they used to call manic depressive. That would be the manic episodes, and they're so alluring that way. It's like you dating a rock star or something. And then the guy, may spend a great deal of money on him. They're seeing the other side of the personality. Then they get married to him, and then eventually he just starts getting violent and abusive. And I guess they've been so hook, line, and sinker somehow or another to decide that, I must make it work. I can change him. He really needs me. Or whatever the case may be. What if you end up with some sort of financial dependent? I'm sure this is what they work for. Because you got to look at the dark side of individuals and not overlook it just because they have a good side. I mean, it might have worked for Luke Skywalker and Star Wars. With Darth Vader, after all of what he did, he killed all his young Jedi and everything, as it turns out. And it's like, there is good in him. I know it. I'm going to go work on it. What a foolish notion. Oh, my gosh. And it doesn't even consider the fact, if someone's, totally made a pact with Satan and stuff, the demon's going to come in and take over, and you're not going to be able to negotiate with the demon because he or she's hostage at that moment. Okay, instantly cure sicknesses that has been caused by diabolical influence. Well, that's what I was saying earlier, that demons will put sickness on people, even in curses and so forth, diabolically influenced. And, of course, some person who serves demons is going to be able to remove the diabolical influence. It's like a plea deal, or it's appeasement. And that's the only way they can actually get rid of demons, is to make an appeasement. And if they put it on there, they don't have to do that, because they already did it so with the understanding that it's a bait and switch. You send a demon to the person, then you call them back and act like you cured them. Where's my $5,000? Produce a stigmata in any kind of body, extraordinary phenomenon. This includes, Blessed Mother apparitions or any apparitions, real or imaginary. Some are actually faked, but some of them will be real, like Garabandal. That's actually diabolical. Yes, it's diabolical. Would you like me to go on for about 3 hours on that one? I got a presentation. Okay, so and yeah, we think we'll have to do a shorter version of that one again, but it's on the Real Deal show. You'll see that we talked about this Garabandal movie that's done in Spanish. Because I think people need to stop following false apparitions and stuff, because there's always one little element there, like all religions are equal in the eyes of God, that will be destructive to the church and to the truth. Another video in itself, and we'll have pictures. We got a few things talking about all of those. Even that one, that's on the one that there was a book this gentleman wrote, and we commented on that. Similar miracles and phenomenon to levitation, bilocation. Bilocation, that's like astral projection, and you do it when you don't want to. I mean, Some cases, when you're offline, your spirit's out of your body and a demon's walking around it, they'll see your spirit. That's one of the strange things about it. And this is also part of the vampire lure about bilocation, that someone's actually able to bilocate. You know, Padre Pio bilocated, of course. A woman needed last rites and communion, and he bilocated 3 hours away. So the good and the bad, we'll use these. So it says simulate miracles and phenomena of levitation. How much can you simulate levitation? It either happens or it doesn't, and it happens in front of all the witnesses, and we're not all going to hallucinate. So, yes, this one is a little... And we know the bilocation happens because of astral travel. We know people who were able to put themselves into each other's dreams. Okay, cause person or objects to disappear from sight by placing an obstacle in a line of vision or acting directly on the sense of sight. Simulate locations by means of sound waves or immediate action on the sense of hearing. Cause the person to speak in tongues. Another story on the last one. Okay, so this one here is an interesting one because it's saying that demons can cause a person or objects to disappear from sight by placing an obstacle in a line of vision or acting directly. Well, it sounds like, see, I'm not sure. If I could only talk to this guy, I'd probably email Father Chad, but he's busy just as we are. That placing an obstacle in a line of vision, because this also says that person or objects to disappear from sight. Okay, we know teleportation works because it doesn't get blocked temporarily and then it pop back in. It disappeared in front of people and then ends up in a drawer somewhere nobody had ever put it, like in the bathroom drawer in the bottom of the sink. Some of these people, they didn't experience this stuff, and they wrote all the stuff down they did, but it's not important that they missed that. It doesn't say anything about them. As long as it's recognized that demonics would make things disappear from sight. He put his little scientific observation in there. Oh, they can't teleport it or whatever, remove it from one place to another without floating through like in Bewitched, like, you know, Tabitha, she drew her own bottle to her in her little crib. So that one I think he did was because he put what he knew kind of naturally would be the reason for that to happen, because perhaps he never experienced that something can teleport. How about doors totally teleporting off the frames or something larger? It just I don't even think that. I mean, that's a rare one. It would be a pretty powerful demon. It's possible that, you know, when they did that, they didn't do it right in front of... Yeah, they didn't do... The ones I know, they didn't do it right in front of larger objects. It's smaller objects, like car keys and stuff. And now you see it, now you don't. And then you don't find it. It doesn't just pop back in because something was obstructing your view. But I think that was just important to realize that sometimes they give their observations because they're kind of science-minded, you know, logical thinking and all that. That's what philosophy can be sometimes, a little bit of mix of wisdom and logical thinking. Trying to be critical thinking and all that. So, to produce bodily incombustibility by imposing some medium between the fire and the body of the individual. We already noticed from the witches and stuff, the fire starters, or the people who supposedly manipulate the elements. Spontaneous human combustion had been said by the parapsychologist Ed Warren to be something that can be caused by demons. He says that if you came in direct contact with a demon, like the tornado-y thing he said showed up in his office one time, that you would have spontaneous human combustion happen. The reality is people who touched it felt kind of like a static electricity. You could push back, you know, like with a force, something like that, but touching it and then you die. And they've been over people, you know, you get sleep paralysis, pass out, who knows? But we don't know of a case where that happens. And then we found out a lot about spontaneous combustion. But they basically found out when they did hogs, the body acts like a wick. All the fat starts burning, so it can slowly burn to the ground without having to have the intense heat on the outside of it. It burns like a wick. That's why it just suddenly stops. But, I mean, it's a little bit strange. And the fact that it happens to somebody, you know, they fall asleep in bed in the right conditions and they're there, I can't even say if that's not natural in any case. But kind of the opposite of sleep paralysis. Every case we ever looked at, and we looked at it, asked all the details to find out that it's sleep paralysis, and it was never what they call medical sleep paralysis. Case of SP. Scientists like that because they're atheists. You always expect that. And they don't want to take the reality that they might be being hovered over by some entity, a negative one, because they don't even want to believe in God. They still exclude that. That's why I never go to a psychologist who doesn't understand spiritual warfare. If you have, especially suspecting an issue of it on one of your family members, friends, or yourself, stay away from them. Because it means they're also lacking wisdom. And you know, when some guy has no wisdom whatsoever, it's like getting a new guy straight out of college. He has no experience, because experience some part of wisdom. Unless you don't process it right and you have to learn absolutely nothing. There's a lot of people who experience paranormal, preternatural, whatever you call it, phenomenon their whole life, and they totally took it the wrong direction. Either they went to the wrong solutions, because they're reading the books, and it's like, oh, Gene Dixon had it all figured out in the 70s. That kind of stuff. Or what's her name? Sylvia Brown. So, okay, we're going to end this right here, and we'll see you next time. God bless you. This is Brother Kenneth, and we're out of here.